They don't see it coming. While the market is distracted by meme coins and fake hype, Stellar has been quietly building something explosive. And when it detonates, when the switch flips, XLM could go vertical. Not years from now, not months from now, could happen at any moment. Here's exactly why. Let's talk about momentum. Not the kind that clogs up your YouTube feed with green candles and influencer hype. I'm talking about real momentum, the kind that builds underground, quiet, relentless, strategic. Because while the entire crypto market has been obsessing over memecoins, airdrops, and whatever shiny object Twitter tells you to chase this week, Stellar's been doing something completely different. It's been building. Not for headlines, not for short-term pumps, but for a long-term infrastructure takeover. And right now, the fuse is lit. This is a protocol that's already integrated with regulated global remittance providers, already powering humanitarian aid, and already embedded in $10 trillion real-world industries. But because it's not loud, people ignore it. Big mistake. Let's break it down. What's actually happening under the surface that nobody's paying attention to? Palago Labs, a $10 trillion Trojan horse. Earlier this year, Palago Labs launched on Stellar, and most of crypto missed the headline. But what they're doing is seismic. They're using Soroban smart contracts to bring trade finance, an industry worth $10 trillion, fully on-chain. Think about that. Trade finance isn't speculation. It's not NFTs or pump-and-dump tokens. It's the real infrastructure of how goods move around the world. Containers, logistics, supply chains, invoices, settlements, all of it. And now, all of it is being tokenized and automated on Stellar using programmable smart contracts. That means XLM is being used in the background to facilitate real business. Real movement. Real volume. Not hope. Not hype. This isn't some potential partnership. It's already live. UNHCR, real aid, real transactions, real use. Next, let's talk about the UNHCR, the United Nations Refugee Agency. This isn't a test net. This isn't a pilot program. This is humanitarian aid, moving through Stellar rails today in high-pressure conflict zones, including Ukraine and parts of Africa. They're using XLM to deliver cash-based aid directly to recipients, bypassing the red tape, delays, and inefficiencies of traditional systems. And here's the kicker. Those XLM transactions are instantly convertible to local fiat via Stellar's on-chain integration with MoneyGram's global cash-out network. No other blockchain is doing this at this level. Not Ethereum, not Solana, not even XRP. This is a real-life, decentralized financial solution being deployed by the United Nations, not some DAO built in a Discord server. And yet, no one is talking about it. MoneyGram plus Stellar, the global liquidity grid. Now here's the one that might actually be the most overlooked catalyst in the entire altcoin space. MoneyGram's on/off-ramp integration with Stellar. As of now, Stellar supports crypto-to-cash conversions in over 180 countries. That means someone can walk into a MoneyGram location, swap USDC or XLM for fiat instantly, or do the reverse without needing a bank account. This is game-changing for the 1.7 billion unbanked adults globally. And it's not a dream. It's not a roadmap. It's live. This system is compliant, licensed, and operating in countries that most other blockchains couldn't legally touch. And every time that ramp is used, XLM gets burned in transaction fees. Ethereum devs aren't ready for this. And frankly, most of crypto still has no clue what's coming. Because while everyone's still obsessing over which blockchain can handle JPEGs faster, Stellar has quietly released a monster into the smart contract arena. Its name? Soroban. And once this thing wakes up, once developers realize what's actually been built here, it's game over for a lot of bloated, gas-choked chains. Not just smart contracts, smart infrastructure. Let's get one thing straight. Soroban isn't just another smart contract platform. It's not trying to be Ethereum 2.0 or the next Solana clone. It's built from the ground up to solve the actual problems institutions and real-world finance players face. We're talking speed, predictable near-zero fees, built-in compliance, tight integration with fiat rails, and a developer experience that doesn't require mastering a clunky, gas-optimized language like Solidity. This isn't for farming yield on a sketchy DEX. This is for programming money at an institutional level with security, scale, and simplicity baked in. The WASM advantage. Why Soroban is built different. Now here's where things get serious. Soroban is WASM-based, WebAssembly. What does that mean? It means Soroban smart contracts are faster than EVM contracts, safer thanks to better memory management and built-in constraints, easier to audit, which is exactly what enterprises and regulators want, and crucially, language agnostic. Developers can build in Rust, Go, C++, and more. Compare that to Solidity, a language invented in 2015 that still feels like programming with duct tape and hope. WASM gives Soroban an instant edge. It's modern, it's modular, and it's ready for serious business logic, not just staking games. And because Soroban integrates directly into Stellar Core, it inherits everything Stellar already does well. Fast, final settlement in 5 seconds, built-in asset issuance, decentralized exchange functionality, and compliance-first architecture. Enterprise-grade from day one. This is what makes Soroban different from every other smart contract platform before it. It wasn't built for hype. It was built for Wall Street. You're not going to see 1,000 Ponzi tokens launch on Soroban in a week. What you will see are tokenized securities, real-world asset protocols, trade finance applications, programmable stablecoins, interoperable CBDCs. Soroban is the first smart contract platform where DeFi doesn't mean degeneracy. It means dependability. And don't take my word for it, Pelago Labs is already using Soroban in production. Not in theory. In live business applications involving regulated counterparties and billion-dollar industries. Developer interest is quietly surging. And here's the signal no one's watching. Soroban's testnet and dev tooling is already live and active. Stellar has launched multiple grant programs and developer incentives targeting smart contract builders. And we're already seeing dev migration from smaller EVM chains and even newer ecosystems because of Soroban's performance and simplicity. It's early, but the infrastructure is already there, the incentives are lined up, and the first wave of smart contract apps are already showing up. Think of where Avalanche was right before its 2021 breakout, except this time the foundations are actually sustainable. The moment it clicks, everything changes. Here's how this plays out. A flagship Soroban project hits the mainstream. Maybe it's Palago, maybe it's a new cross-border payments dApp. Institutional players realize they can build compliant DeFi tools without touching Ethereum gas or Layer 2 spaghetti. Developers flood in. TVL spikes. XLM demand explodes. Because remember, every Soroban smart contract, every on-chain interaction, requires Stellar resources to execute. That means real XLM demand, real network activity, real fee pressure. And unlike most chains, Stellar doesn't have inflation emissions to offset that. This is a fixed supply token with increasing utility. So as Soroban grows, so does the intrinsic value of XLM. You're early to the smart contract war 2.0. We've already seen what happens when smart contract platforms explode. Ethereum did it first. Solana followed with speed. Avalanche, Polygon, and others had their moments. But all of them are now bloated, facing scalability issues, regulatory headaches, or ecosystem decay. Soroban is entering at the perfect time. With a better architecture, better compliance profile, and a real-world pipeline of partners already lined up through Stellar's existing enterprise network. The truth is, this might be the last time to get ahead of a smart contract explosion before it happens. And the fuse? It's already burning. You want real moon potential? Forget hype cycles. Look for demand. Real demand. Not from meme chasers. Not from Telegram pump groups. But from the institutions that actually move trillions. And right now, Stellar is starting to show up on institutional radar. Not because it's flashy, but because it's built for the jobs that actually matter. Programmable finance, tokenized assets, and compliant global payments. We're not talking about theoretical white papers or vague promises. We're talking about billion-dollar players already deploying on Stellar today. Franklin Templeton, a $1.4 trillion giant, steps in. Let's start here. Franklin Templeton, one of the world's largest asset managers with over $1.4 trillion in AUM, has chosen Stellar to tokenize its U.S. government money fund, one of the most boring but essential pieces of traditional finance. Why does that matter? Because the moment a regulated giant like Franklin Templeton issues tokenized shares of a real-world fund on a blockchain, they're making a massive statement. We trust this infrastructure to carry real value, at real scale, under real regulatory scrutiny. And out of all the possible chains they could have used, Ethereum, Avalanche, Tezos, take your pick, they chose Stellar. That's not noise. That's signal. And it tells you exactly what kind of players are quietly building behind the scenes. Institutions who don't care about hype, they care about security, speed, and compliance. IBM World Wire, the comeback no one saw coming. Remember IBM World Wire? Most of crypto thought it died in 2020. But here's what they missed. It never went away. It just went quiet because it was transitioning from testing to deployment. IBM's World Wire platform uses Stellar to settle cross-border payments in real time, not between banks, but between central banks. And now it's starting to ramp back up, especially in Latin America and Sub-Saharan Africa. Why those regions? Because they need fast, low-cost payment infrastructure without the corruption and inefficiencies of legacy systems. Stellar fits perfectly. 5-second settlements, fraction of a cent fees, built-in FX conversions and stablecoin rails. In places where SWIFT is too slow and banking infrastructure is unreliable, Stellar isn't just a better option, it's becoming the default. IBM didn't abandon Stellar. It doubled down, quietly, strategically, and the institutions using World Wire. They're not some startup. They're sovereign-level money movers. CBDCs are coming, and Stellar's on the shortlist. Let's talk CBDCs, central bank digital currencies. You've heard the term. You've seen the headlines. But what's really happening? Several central banks, particularly in Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Pacific Islands, are actively experimenting with issuing CBDCs on Stellar. Why? Because Stellar offers everything these central banks want. A permissioned framework to control issuance and distribution. Full auditability for regulators. Tokenized compliance, built directly into transactions. And the ability to operate in offline, low-bandwidth environments, which is critical in developing nations. In fact, the Central Bank of Ukraine has already piloted a Stellar-based CBDC for their eHryvnia project. The Banco Central del Peru has been in exploratory talks. And across Africa, multiple countries are investigating Stellar as an alternative to China's digital yuan pressure. This isn't just a tech experiment, it's a sovereign-scale decision-making process. And Stellar is in the room. When even government entities are building on your protocol, you're not a speculative asset anymore. You're financial infrastructure, from the shadows to the spotlight. Now here's where it gets interesting. Most retail investors have no clue that Stellar is tied into these institutional pipelines. They still think of XLM as a cheap XRP alternative, or a slow-moving coin that didn't moon with the rest of the market. What they're missing is this. The asset managers are already here. The banking networks are already testing. The CBDC pilots are already live. And the entire foundation is being built under the radar. This is the setup before the storm. Because once any of these institutional programs moves from pilot to full-scale deployment, the demand curve for XLM won't bend gradually, it'll snap vertically. The fundamentals don't lie. Let's be brutally honest. You don't get this kind of institutional traction unless your tech works. Period. Stellar is proving right now that it can handle institutional-grade tokenization, settle central bank-level payments, enable government-backed digital currencies, and do it all with security, transparency, and compliance-first design. This isn't the kind of thing you see in a token with a $3 trillion market cap. This is the kind of thing you see in an asset that's massively undervalued and dangerously mispriced, for now. Because the second institutional liquidity starts flowing through these rails, XLM reprices overnight. XLM supply dynamics are brutally bullish. Let's break this down. Total supply 50 billion. Current circulating 28 billion. Stellar burned 55 billion tokens back in 2019 and hasn't touched supply since. And unlike most tokens, XLM has no inflation mechanism. That means no dilution, no emissions schedule, just fixed supply and growing demand from both on-chain smart contract activity and off-chain fiat ramps. Combine that with the fact that major on-off-ramp activity via MoneyGram burns XLM on every TX, and you've got a deflationary utility token in disguise. This is the same setup that sent BNB vertical in 2021. And XLM is arguably more integrated into real economies. The trigger moment, what could set it off? Here's the part nobody's prepared for. The next bull run won't be driven by hype alone. It'll be triggered by real-world adoption news, like Palago or a central bank using Stellar for settlement, major exchange listings or liquidity partnerships, a surge in stablecoin usage on Stellar, particularly USDC, or even a regulatory greenlight that makes Stellar the go-to for CBDC integration. And the chart setup? XLM has been consolidating in a tight range for months. That's a spring-loaded breakout waiting to happen. One catalyst, and the market will scramble to reprice a token that's been massively undervalued for years. While everyone is chasing the next memecoin, the real explosion is being built silently. Stellar is positioned to power real financial rails, enable compliant DeFi, and bridge traditional finance with crypto at global scale. And when the market realizes what's coming, XLM won't move slowly. It'll skyrocket. Subscribe to Be Crypto Smart for the sharpest analysis in crypto. No hype, just truth. You won't want to miss what's next.